we thought about what we should teach during the camp. We certainly thought, making employment decisions using data, right? During that, the first Friday lecture about how to pick your major, how to pick your career, that's important. But I think the second thing that's really, really important, you will soon discover, is that you will have to work with people a whole lot. And in order for your career, for AI camp, for anything to progress, we need, basically maybe talk to people to get their opinions and borrow their brains and think about these things together. Or maybe, you need to work with your partners. Maybe, you need to, like getting an internship or getting a job, etc. All these things involve with talking to people. But school probably won't teach you how to do that, right? So we thought maybe what's really beneficial, for this camp is we will talk a little bit, from our own experience, how we can do that, right? Okay. So that's basically the general reason why we wanted to do this. Um, an information interview, is this something where you're trying to find out, you're trying to get the data for your future, right? So, for example, right, does your data scientist do any analytics, right? What data pipelines you're using? Is diversity important? Here are the questions regarding, for example, in a specific company you're trying to get into. But you know what? You can turn any of these questions to, for example, things you need to ask for people. Maybe it's about, getting that recommendation letter. Maybe it's about talking to a professor. Okay. So the general things you'll learn in this lecture can be applied to answer those questions. Of course, at the same time, we can learn a little bit of new material that is, what is the information interview, right? So information interview, is actually can be coming from this book. What's the color of your parachute? Essentially, that's a book trying to help you to figure out, what you should do, for your job, etc. But information interview is basically you talking to people and really getting to know about their experiences, right? Whether it's about that workplace or that industry, right? You're trying to get to know them. At the same time, this information interview, maybe the person, who you're talking to, is so impressed about who you are, and they can essentially help you to get into like a job. I think Oliver is about to talk to, Dimitri, right, about Professor Taki Weizmann, and that turns out that's an information interview, right? Because like we need to talk to Dimitri about what does Taki look like, and how does what is it like working with him? What kind of things would he do? Is there any opportunities, right? At the same time, if Oliver just asking questions nonstop, right, that won't go, right? Somehow, Oliver has to also impress Dimitri for Dimitri to feel safe. Yeah, Oliver is a great person, right? I feel very good. Recommend Oliver to Taki, right? Do you guys see that? Or could it be when you talk to your math teacher, when you talk to a math professor, how do you sort of like talking to that professor, gain the knowledge, but also respect at the same time, right? That's the things that Richard talked about. That is, you approach the person with a prepared mind. This is the whole thing here, right? Is gonna set you apart from all your peers, I think. Okay, you'll see that. Okay, so why do we need to learn information interview, this early? Why do we need to basically learn how to talk to people? Because when you think about it, you have an important decision to make, which is going to set your life in a certain direction. And it's really important to figure that out, as soon as you can. And the second is you would discover, doesn't really matter what you do in the future, it takes a network. Whether it's like getting that internship, or it's like, wanting that job, or it's like, I'm gonna work on that cool project with these people, right? You need to somehow, forming some network and work with these people, right? And finally, I think we all should have a mentor, right? So if you can, how do you sort of like identify the right person for you, right? And getting mentorship, right? All these are important kind of like things that we should do, and requires us to have certain change. I would say this is the most important slide on this whole lecture. And you can see here why I need to offer everyone a couch, because really what's behind this is a mindset change. This morning, right? Thank you for everyone who shared about your stories. But there's a common theme here, which is essentially, like you sort of like start asking people, and it turns out it was fine. It turns out all your worries, they're not really real, right? All these concerns you had. Maybe the teacher is very restrictive. Maybe I want to get a good recommendation letter. Maybe, the teacher won't even talk to us. That wasn't the case. That wasn't the case, right? That wasn't the case. So that really, set a good example of why these mindsets changes are pretty important. So for example, the ones that we talked about, everything turns out to be okay, is that you might as well not thinking about those things, right? Not thinking about these concerns, but rather you want to put your energy, put your thoughts, put your neurotransmitters, whatever you have, right, onto things like, how can I talk to that person? What kind of questions I can ask? If this doesn't work out, all the things I can do, right? Put that emotion aside, right? And put activity above it or else, meaning that I'm going to turn this whole thing in terms of numbers game. If this doesn't work out, there will be someone else. Okay? Now, another important mindset change is you need to embrace plenty and not scarcity. So when you think about our daily lives, this is a little bit counterintuitive when you think about it, because everything we do in life, we're trying to save something, right? We're trying to save a little bit of water. We're trying to not wasting food, right? That's always I tell my 3-year-old every day, every meal, 15 minutes. You have to finish everything in 15 minutes, and I'm going to give you a sticker, right? And his mind is going to be, trained in such a way. And of course, over the summer camp here, we only had limited hours, right? We're trying to save time. So everything that we do these days, we're trying to save something. But you know what? In terms of building relationships, in terms of finding your next internship or job, no, you want to think about the concept that there is always something else that's going to work out. Don't, don't waste time on people who are not great. Okay. So I want to dive this into a little bit. For example, true or false, if I reach out, people will think that I'm intruding. We just actually, right, talked about this, and based on our own experiences, right, that's definitely not the case. The whole idea about embrace plenty, just to continue that conversation, is you don't want to spend time with the wrong people, right? If you come best prepared, then you should always try to reach out to people and find people that's going to work out, as opposed to worry about things that won't work out for the wrong, interaction for the wrong people. Okay. But of course you have to, be well intended. You have to be well prepared. But what I'm trying to say is that there will be, if you just need one job, you only need one job, right? You can't actually work with 2 jobs anyway. So just basically apply more. Okay. If one doesn't work out, go to the next one. No hesitation. So we talked about this a little bit, right? Which is activities above all, meaning that, instead of you worry about, people not getting back to you, worried about, am I intruding, worried about, maybe it's the wrong thing to do. Forget all about that, right? You want to essentially just go ahead and do it and spend your mind in considering how you can make that interaction better. Or if that interaction doesn't work, right, what's the next thing I can do? And the final thing, however, this is really important, that is, iteration is key. You will discover sooner or later in life that is, most things you do, you will fail. Most, right? In school, you're set up for success. Your problems will always have an answer. In AI camp, there's a playbook. We won't allow you to fail. But once you get into the wild, maybe it's like, I don't know, go for fishing. Maybe it's like, go find a job. Maybe it's like taking initiative in your job, right? You will find out most of the things you do will fail to some extent. Okay, but it's important for you to, get up from your feet and really looking at, each process of each thing you did, how you can make that better, right? And this applies to, for example, how you go about finding internships, talking to people, finding another job, right? You need to continuously refine yourself, refine your idea, and keep on learning. Okay? And so this is where also confidence will come in, right? You have to be very optimistic, right? At the same time, keep on thinking about how we can improve this better. You guys won't believe, the kind of camp material we had for our first summer camp. That was really hard. That was really hard. And right now, everything's, I think, is relatively, better and smooth, and we improve it over time. Okay, so as far as information interview goes, here are the general 4 steps. Okay, we talked about this a little bit, right? Richard talked about his experience a little bit. The first thing you do, you prepare yourself, and then you go ahead and reach out to people, right? And finally you talk to people, and then you follow up. Okay, 4 simple steps. 4 simple steps. Prepare yourself. This is one of the most important things that you ought to do when you are go and try to find an internship or whatnot. You see this person on the right hand side? His world is essentially in this shop, right? And you can see here, he's trying every iteration possible, right, to create something. When you talk to anyone about, for example, like, oh, it's about this internship, or it's about this, job, or it's about that recommendation letter, oh, you need to know who you're talking to. You need to know everything they do, right? 24/7, everything they do. So, for example, if we're going to talk to Taki, we need to know his research in and out. We need to know his personal kind of academic history, what the things he went through. We need to know the things that he's trying to fight for, right? We know everything about it. There's nothing more to know. We're going to make him feel bad to reject us because we just know him so much, right? The same applies to your math professor. We know everything about this person. We talk to people he taught before. We know every subject that he need to teach. You need to prepare yourself to be essentially the best person for this single position, right? You need to go way beyond, right, than what everyone else would do. And that will make you stand out, right? And if you prepare yourself in that fashion, I would say you can get any job, okay? Any job. So this is really, really important, okay? Prepare yourself is really, really important. When you're requesting, right? So you want to apply this mindset, activities above all, right? Maybe you need to prepare, so much around this meeting. You have to, meet people, maybe, in the Taki's kind of example, you need to meet every single student from Taki, right? So you want to ask, you probably have to request a lot of things, right? But the most important thing is, you wanted to put activities above all and not letting your mindset of being, for example, am I intruding, or is this the right format? Let me format this email once more. Don't do that, right? Prepare yourself, but make sure you're also reaching out to a lot of people. And the other thing, guys, you can play is that, look, you're a student, right? You're a student. You're here to learn, right? So use that card when you talk to people. So when you're conducting that conversation, you want to follow this rule, which is called 40% rule. That is, you're talking 40% of the time, right? You can, for example, approach people and then have people sort of like always talking and you're not talking. So one thing you wanted to make sure that is happening is this is going to be a tennis match, right? When you talk to people, it's about a tennis match. When you play tennis, right, one, swing of my racket, the other person, they have to, bring the ball back, right? You want to go back and forth. You want to use your intelligence and your understanding, your preparation of the domain subject, and you can challenge their thinking, right? Impressing them, right? Maybe offer different angle, right? Ask in-depth questions, so they make them feel that, wow, this person here, he or she is really prepared, and I would love to work with this person, right? You want to be impressive, okay? So it's not just about getting the information, but it's also the other way, right? Let them gain something. And finally, you want to follow up K more than one, meaning that you probably can also, have this person, maybe Taki to introduce you to maybe some other professors, right? If things doesn't work out, but you're definitely undeterred by rejections. We'll get there, right? But you want to be very authentic and direct, follow up and asking for opportunities or anything like that, right? Again, undeterred by rejections, right? You always have confidence in yourself, in the effort you put in. We can actually turn this whole lecture in something that's quite actionable, right? Quite actionable. We can essentially use this opportunity, right? If you have any um, job or internship you need to do, we can, think about this together. Okay? Like when you apply for a job, apply for internship, one of the most important section, right, is actually right after the interview. So the interviewer would be like, do you have any questions to us? Oh, wow, that really separated the good ones from the bad ones. Because just during that 5 minutes, you will see, when people are asking questions, the good ones, oh my gosh, they're so original, right? They thought about this, they offer different opinions. It's almost that section, you wanted to get to points like the other person would be like, hey, maybe we should schedule another conversation about this, right? You win at that time, right? That's, you want to put thoughts into it. The worst case scenario is like, oh, no, I'm good. We don't have any questions, right? Don't do that. Should we be afraid to reach out to people? Okay, then how can we overcome that fear? How can we do that? That's right? You put your energy into preparing that meeting. Also remember, don't spend the time with the wrong people. You will basically encounter those people, right? So, and always you want to think about more than one choices. So if this doesn't work out, then what else can I do? What more can I do? What would be the direction that we can go for that, right? Again, you want to turn this into a numbers game, right? There's a finite probability that this will work out. If you just need to n equal to 1, n equal to probability times the number of tries, then you can either increase that probability by preparing better, or you can just increase the number of tries. So if this doesn't work out, then what can I do, right? Reach out is 100% chance that's going to happen. We will do it, right? But it's everything afterwards. What can we, whether it's increase the probability or increase the number of tries.
There's this one time in high school where even if I asked a question, as I said, I was scared to hell of asking teachers. So what also helped is I also asked my peers, did you guys understand this?
Yeah.
And maybe it's not just you, but it always requires one brave soul in the class to ask that question. And sometimes that doesn't work. And what helps even more is if you find out from your friends that they don't even understand as well, then maybe you ask together, because you're going to get more courage in asking groups, because then the teacher realizes, oh, maybe I didn't get it. It's not just one kid. It's actually the whole class. Maybe I communicated in a way that no one understood.
Right.
Or maybe I didn't prepare them.
Right.
So if you come in numbers, that also helps. Like get your friends with you. If you, well, for first check, does your friend understand? If they understand, maybe they can help you. If they don't understand, that means there's probably more than one or two of you that don't understand. And that means if you ask, you're just helping mostly probably all of them. But if you're scared, maybe check with your friends to say, hey, do you understand this? And
yep.
and then maybe everyone will be scared, and then maybe one person in your group will be brave enough. If not, every now and then take the plunge, ask.
Yep. Yep.
People have this problem, not even when they're in school. They have this problem when they get much older and they work in a company or where they work. They're going to encounter this, and people still have these fears.
Right.
And so, some of the workshops that we go through is sometimes actually role playing.
Mm.
And actually, for example, if you've never been a manager before and you have to go ask people, hey, I have to give you some negative feedback. No one likes to tell people like they suck or something, right?
Yeah.
So they practice role playing in a way where you're not offending the other person, but also practicing how to be open minded. So
Yeah.
maybe we put in there like kind of role play. Some people pretend they're the teacher, some people pretend they have a question to ask
Right.
and kind of try it out. And then there is usually a group of three. One person observes, one person plays like the teacher, and the other person plays the student, and then you do the interaction. The person who observes gives feedback,
Right.
something like that.
Yep. Yep. I think that's a great suggestion. Yeah.
Another tip that I've heard from like my academic advisor at school, she always tells me like there's going to be like a lot of times where you're going to need to reach out for someone for like a favor, whether that be um, like a professor or you're looking for like someone to mentor you or something like that. And she always recommends keeping uh, the initial um, like email, because usually that's how you reach out, is like by email, like very brief, and like you don't want to send them like a big long paragraph about like this is my life story and like these are all the things that I need and want from you. You just keep it very brief, like, hi, I'm Shane, I'm a student studying this and I'm interested in like whatever you're working on. Do you think we could uh, meet like sometime, or like have a phone call, or like get coffee or something? And then just like super brief introduction, and then like ask them for if there's any time that they could like meet up or like call or something.
Yep.
And then that way you're not bombarding them all at once, with your first like introduction with asking them for a ton of favors. It's just quick, get in there, ask them if they have any time, and then get out.
I think that's great advice. Yeah. Great advice.